Super Prize Fighter! 1991 saw the rise of the fighting game genre thanks to Street Fighter II being released into arcades. And boy, did developers flock to the idea of pushing out their own versions to try and corner that market. One company in particular really loved publishing and developing fighting games, SNK. They had their hand in the beat-em-up scene with Burning Fight, but it's their fighting game catalog that is most fondly remembered. Fatal Fury, King of Fighters, Art of Fighting, Samurai Showdown are some of the best examples of a non-SF2 game there was at the time. And most of them would get ports to their respective 16-bit consoles too. But some fighters are just better than others. Is World Heroes a cash grab, or is there teeth on this tiger? This is the often overlooked and weird World Heroes on the Super Nintendo.
Round one, fight.
World Heroes was released on the SNES in 1993 and developed by Sunsoft. Normally the SNK ports were exclusively handled by Takara, but not this one. The story is a little unique as a mad scientist tells us to hop into a time machine to battle other warriors from the past and the future. But don't expect anything more than that, we're here for the brawling, not some Shakespearean play. Roster size is about average with 8 World Heroes at our command, the same as vanilla Street Fighter II. There's the clone fighters Fuma and Hanzo, the obligatory wrestler Muscle Power, whose likeness is totally not Hulk Hogan, Lee, which is of course the legendary Bruce Lee, Brocken, a mixture of M. Bison and Dalsim, Rasputin with weird magical attacks, Jarn is the Mongolian warrior who's super agile, and Jan, who is based off of Joan of Arc. I actually really like this weird group of misfit fighters. They're nicely detailed and are interesting to look at. In fact, this whole game is extremely colorful. Take for instance all the backgrounds we'll fight in. There's an ancient temple, military hangar, circus, steel cage, shrine, various rings, wrestling rings too. Lots of variety, heck, a lot more than Street Fighter even. It's quite impressive. For the controls, we have 2 punches and kicks of different strengths. There's also a button to throw, and we can execute cool-looking special moves with a few button commands. The moves aren't that tricky to pull off if you're used to these type of fighting games, and it responds pretty well actually. Most characters have about 3 to 4 of them, and it plays great, although not as fast as some of the later turbo editions of Street Fighter II. This game plays like you're on the moon with its floaty jumps, so be aware of that if you prefer faster fighters. The music is actually quite good. I really like what Sunsoft did with the soundtrack from the arcade original. I never found the tracks to be super memorable, but it's pretty solid overall. A lot better than some of the other mediocre fighters on the market for the time. The opening theme is probably my favorite.
Number one.
In terms of gameplay modes, there's a normal tournament mode where you pick your guy and fight all the others until you reach the final boss. And then there's the real star here, Deathmatch mode, or what they call Fatal Match mode. It plays the same, except now you have hazards and traps to look out for. Rings of fire, electrified ropes, spiked walls, you can even have your head shaved if you lose. Well, look at this, it's pretty cool. I had a lot of fun playing Fatal Match mode. In fact, I highly recommend doing Fatal Match in a single player game. It's intense because you're fighting to keep away from these traps, and every little pushback from blocking could be your last. I love it. The game does suffer from slowdown, especially in the fatal matches. Getting knocked into the hazards makes the game go in super slow mode, especially against the final boss, Gigas? Yeah, I guess his name is Gigas. I don't know, whatever. He's one of those chameleon fighters that can morph into anyone else, and even that is kind of slow. Checking out the gaming magazines at the time, EGM number 51 gave it a score of 26 out of a possible 40, stating that it didn't hold up to the arcade version, but the deathmatch mode was interesting. I agree. GamePro magazine issue number 50 was much more favorable to the fighter, giving it a 17 out of 20. Holy crap. They praised the speed of the game, which is kind of weird because it's kind of slow, saying it was actually better than the arcade version, but the sound wasn't as good. Overall, I was really impressed with the SNES port. The game handles well, has a lot of backgrounds to fight in, sounds nice, and has a few digitized voices too. The extra Fatal Match mode is the star of the game, offering something pretty unique that most fighters of that era can't claim. It's also pretty cheap, so I give it a high recommendation. Check it out.